Okay, the whole concept of average rate of change is supposed to be developed in pre-calculus. Unfortunately, it usually isn't. So I'm going to start with a definition here. Now there's much other stuff that we hopefully could have done where you really understand what rates of change are, but you probably recognize some of these. Okay, the average rate of change of one quantity with respect to another is the change in that quantity divided by the change in the other. I'll use A and B to represent the two quantities. So it'll be change in A divided by change in B. Okay, now we'll do some examples, but formally that is the definition. So now we're going to apply that definition to the average rate of change of a function. Okay, so what I mean by, quote, average rate of change of y equals f of x with respect to x, what does that mean? Well, it must mean change in y divided by change in x. Okay? Or, equivalently, change in f of x over change in x, since y is f of x. Okay? Now that's okay, but just x can change all kinds of ways. What do we mean exactly by the change in x? So we need to be more specific, and I'll say change when. Okay, or for what values of x. Now we could say for what values of y, but x is the independent variable. You have a unique y for every x, but you don't have a unique x for every y. In other words, the graph of a function has to obey the vertical line test. It doesn't have to obey a horizontal line test. So if I say, well, from this value of y to that, well, either of these values of y could have multiple values of x associated with them. It wouldn't be any good. Now, you don't necessarily need to understand that, but in case that question had arisen in your brain, that's an answer. So we want to use x. That's the bottom line, and that's why we want to use x. Except that we want to use x. If you understand why, that's even better. But it's sufficient to understand that we do this in terms of values of x. So I'm going to say, well, from one value of x to another. Okay, from one specified value of x to another. Now, that's still a little bit vague because we haven't really said what value of x to what other value of x. So better let's say from x equals x1 to x equals x2. That would be good. Or from x equals A to x equals B. Or from x to x plus delta x. Okay? And this is less specific because this is more general. From some value of x to some value that differs from x by some change delta x. Okay, so how do we write change in y divided by change in x for each of these possibilities? I'm going to write the expressions down, but you probably know, you might even want to skip this part after you just kind of look at it, but in the next video we'll do that.